Have you ever wondered why you just absolutely cannot resist that late-night sugary snack? I mean, we've all been there, right? But here's the thing. It's actually not a lack of willpower. Believe it or not, our modern cravings are driven by these bizarre, highly specific ancient survival programs that date back literally millions of years. Let's dive in and explore exactly why your brain is hardwired to crave what it does.
I want you to imagine a stickman ancestor teleported right into your kitchen today. Picture them standing there, staring completely confused into your fully stocked modern fridge. To them, a can of soda wouldn't even register as food, and leftover pizza, that would be completely alien. Which really begs the question, what did ancient humans actually eat?
Well, the answer is pretty grim. If we go back 3 million years, we definitely were not the apex predators we are today. We were actually bottom-tier scavengers. The lions would feast first, taking the absolute best parts, the muscle and the heart. Then the hyenas swept in, crunching right through the ribs and the skin. By the time our early human ancestors finally arrived at the kill, all that was left were the thickest leg bones. These were bones so tough that even hyena jaws couldn't snap them.
But our ancestors had one unique advantage: hands. By gripping heavy stones, they could creep up to those completely stripped carcasses and just smash those massive bones wide open. And inside? Inside was bone marrow. It's this gray, slick, dripping fat. They would scoop it out and eat it completely raw. It was essentially the original feast, perfectly sealed and completely untouched by other predators.
And it wasn't just leg bones either. They actually ate brains too. To put that into perspective, a cracked skull alone holds almost a pound of solid fat. And fat is the most calorie-dense food in all of nature. So for a starving ancestor, finding an intact skull was like hitting the ultimate jackpot. Honestly, this perfectly explains why your body today still treats fat like it's an absolute treasure.
Now, the menu wasn't just leftover bones. Imagine eating termites, grubs, and beetles. Picture popping fat, thumb-sized white larvae into your mouth that crunched just like modern shrimp. And here's the crazy part. This wasn't some desperate last resort just to avoid starving. This was standard everyday dinner for over 1 million years.
It's really vital to wrap our heads around this massive evolutionary scale. We start a staggering 3 million years ago with pure scavenging. Then, roughly 1 million years ago, we hit the monumental discovery of fire. Fast forward to 300,000 years ago, and we see advanced hunter-gatherers, which eventually leads us to some pretty complex and honestly dark rituals about 14,700 years ago.
Let's focus on that million-year mark for a second. The ultimate turning point in all of human history happened deep inside Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. That's where researchers found the oldest human fire ever discovered. Because once we had fire, we had cooking, meat got roasted, roots got buried in hot ashes. This single invention fundamentally changed our biology forever. You see, cooking was basically a biological superpower. If you're chewing raw leaves and raw meat, it forces your gut to do hours and hours of exhausting chemical work just to break it all down. But cooking is essentially pre-digestion. The fire breaks down those tough fibers for you, which means your body spends way less energy digesting the food. You literally pull out way more calories from every single bite. As our ancestors kept cooking, their large, energy-hungry guts actually began to shrink. That freed up a massive amount of energy, and all of it went straight to the brain. Think about this. The human brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight, yet it burns a massive 20% of your daily calories. You simply cannot run a hungry machine like that on raw leaves. Our intelligence was entirely made possible by energy-efficient, cooked food. So, cooking gave us our brains, and those brains basically gave us everything else. By 300,000 years ago, our menu totally exploded. Our ancestors started hunting massive game, like mammoths and bison. Taking down just one single mammoth could feed a whole tribe for weeks, saving them hundreds of hours of daily foraging. And that saved time, that became the very foundation of civilization. Suddenly, we had time to raise children, craft better tools, and tell stories around the campfire.
But alongside all that mammoth meat, they discovered something else entirely: honey. It is the ultimate ancient calorie bomb. Even today, modern hunter-gatherer tribes like the Hadza in Tanzania will literally risk their lives climbing dangerous trees and enduring hundreds of brutal bee stings just to get it. Why? Because absolutely nothing else in nature packs that many calories into a single instant bite. This leads us to a pretty staggering realization. Right now, your body literally cannot tell the difference between wild honey in a tree and a glazed donut. the modern food industry has completely hijacked this ancient survival signal. They basically dress sugar up in different costumes. They put it in soda, cereal, bread, and sauces, making it practically impossible for our primal brains to tell us to stop eating. We're just trying to store fuel, desperately preparing for a food shortage that is never actually going to come.
Okay, now we actually need to take a much darker detour in our evolutionary story. In Gough's cave over in England, dating back roughly 14,700 years, scientists made a truly unsettling discovery. They found human skulls that were meticulously cleaned with stone tools, their faces were removed, and the tops were actually shaped into cups. They also found human arm and leg bones that had been deliberately cracked open for the marrow.
Now, you might immediately assume this was just an act of desperate starvation, right? But let's look at the calories. A single human body provides about 125,000 calories. Compare that to a bison at 600,000 or a mammoth at an astonishing 3 million calories. Plus, Gough's cave was absolutely full of animal remains. There was plenty of other food to eat. So this ancient cannibalism wasn't driven by hunger. Humans simply weren't efficient prey. This was a deliberate, meaningful, and very dark ritual.
Speaking of stomach-churning ancient habits, our ancestors didn't just eat fresh meat. They routinely ate stashed, rotting, maggot-infested meat. When hunters took down a huge animal, there was no way they could finish it all at once, so they would hide it in caves or cold streams. Days or even weeks later, they would return to meat that was literally crawling with maggots and reeking of decay. And the crazy part? They ate it anyway.
So why on earth would they knowingly eat rotting meat? Well, it was actually a process of controlled rot. The bacteria naturally present in the decaying meat started breaking down the tough tissue, effectively pre-digesting the food for them. It made the meat easier to chew, easier to absorb, and it even produced essential B vitamins. It was a highly effective, albeit completely disgusting, biological survival mechanism.
Believe it or not, this connects directly to your modern kitchen today. Cheese, yogurt, sourdough, beer, wine, soy sauce. Every fermented food you love is essentially controlled rot. It's just slowed down and made completely safe for us. Your refined taste for a sharp cheese wasn't born in some pristine French dairy. It actually developed on a dangerous African savanna 100,000 years ago.
When we pull all of this together, the core theme is totally undeniable. You are currently running a 3 million-year-old survival program. Your body has no concept of 24-hour grocery stores or refrigerators. It only knows this one golden rule. Eat what is rich, eat what is rare, and eat while you can. Every single late-night craving for salt, fat, and sugar isn't a lack of discipline. It's literally just your ancient biology desperately trying to keep you alive.
The world this biological program was built for is completely gone. If you dropped a modern human into the deep past, they would probably die in a matter of days, completely unable to recognize the hidden wild food sitting right in front of them. But if you dropped an ancient ancestor into your kitchen today, they would view it as a god's pantry. They would be utterly astounded by the effortless, magical abundance of sweet drinks and endless calories just sitting perfectly packaged on a shelf.
Honestly, it truly highlights the sheer privilege of the modern era. For 3 million years, almost every single human who ever lived was constantly hungry, cold, and tired. When you think about it, you and I might be part of the very first generation in the entire history of our species who isn't living under the constant crushing threat of starvation.
Which leaves us with this final thought. You are no longer fighting to survive on a brutal savanna. You have officially escaped the 3 million-year-old struggle. So, how will you choose to fuel the machine? Your biology is ancient. Sure, but your choices today are entirely your own. It's definitely something to seriously rethink the next time you find yourself staring into the refrigerator at midnight. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.